So, hello everyone. Good evening to all. Today, we all are here to discuss on a very important topic, that is TDS. This is a part and partial of income tax, and as we all know, that we are filing the income tax return at the end of year, and also we are going for the audit. But TDS plays a very important role. If we miss a single fact, in that case, there may be chances of huge penalties, huge interest, and late fees. Now, today in this session, CA Ankita Bothra is going to explain us the essentials of TDS compliances in a very practical way. She will also guide us the practical steps for TDS for 10, how we can file a perfect return, what are the things we need to keep in our mind from the perspective of TDS return filing process. So this session is going to be very much helpful for the tax professionals, for the tax practitioners as well. And as we all know, in the current scenario, the compliances are very important and very special for all of us. And if there will be a single mistake in the compliances, there may be chances of huge penalties. So today, see Ankita Bothra we have, and ma'am will guide us about the practical implications. See Ankita Bothra
Yes.
is in practice and she is based from Mumbai. She has already trained more than 10,000 professionals across India on the various topics related to income tax. And today, ma'am will guide us about the implications of TDS. And I request each one of you, if you have any query during the session, you can post it on the chat box. We'll try to provide the response in between the session. And also, uh, post the session, we may post our replies on the chat box of YouTube channel. I also request each one of you try to subscribe our channel and try to share the link with other professionals about this workshop so that we all can create a great world of knowledge. So thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Thank you all the participants for joining us on this great topic and grand topic. So I'm not going to take much more time. Welcome, ma'am. It's completely over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. So today we are started with the topic of TDS compliances. So first I will give you the complete overview what we are going to cover in this session, what we are going to cover in the next 1 hour. So let's begin, and it will be a crisp memory for you. At the end of the session, you will recall that what we learned. So first I will give you a overview of complete session. Okay. So first we understand the TDS overview. What is the TDS? What is the importance of TDS, and how it will be impact on our taxation? So I will give you the first overview, and then we will understand step by step procedure guidance. What is requirement and what is the step and how the things will be happen. And next we understand so for TDS we have to be require 10 number, a specific number, just like a PAN number for every individual who file their income tax return, or whoever in, if you are an Indian, or if you are the person who earn any income in India and want to declare, then they have a mandatory PAN number, and there are multiple places where a PAN number is a mandatory. So similar thing, 10 number is mandatory. 10 number generally taken by the businessman who run the business, then the 10 number required. So when will require and how to we apply practically, we can cover in this session. It will be very useful if you are the one who practically implement the things, and if you are in going to some interviews or in any practical session, it will be helpful for you. So we will practically see practical guidance to apply 10, then practical guidance to how to be registered that 10 on traces portal, on income tax portal, and why requirement to register on different kind of portal. We will discuss all these things in this session only, so it will be very helpful. We will understand complete process, and also the reason for all the things, that will be a create and crisp thing for everyone. Okay. So practical guidance for 10 registration on the different kind of portal like traces and income tax portal, and the practical understanding how to actually be we will see the one entries how to deduct TDS actually. When will TDS reduction is mandatory? We will also say, so whether it is a mandatory or voluntary, or we can say it is compulsory to deduct TDS, and what happen if we do not do that. That is also we can see. And a specific situation where 10 TDS deduction is required but 10 number is not required. So there are 3 4 situations where TDS reduction is required but 10 number is not required. When this these type of situation, we will discuss that as well. And timing of TDS reduction, common TDS reduction, TDS sections and rate applicable. So what kind of common TDS section which will we can see on almost all type of business, whether the small business or a big business, these TDS section we will this will be the very common TDS section which we can see in all type of businesses. So especially I will cover these section because it will very much important, and it is, if you are not, if you forget to deduct TDS, then what consequences happen on you, we will discuss that as well. That's why we have to understand, we have to see that these, especially these common TDS section. And then TDS payment with the practical guidance. So I will guide you with the practical example how we will deduct TDS and how we deposit to the government, and what is the timeline to deposit, and what is the practical steps to deposit the same, we will cover in this session only. And step to deposit TDS and file form for without 10 in special cases, and also which we already discussed that there are certain cases where 10 number is not required. So there are specific step for that to deposit TDS and file form, that we will also discuss that. Practical guidance to filing TDS return, what happen if you don't deduct or pay TDS on time. So if you are not comply these things, then what happen next, what type of consequences, what type of penalties, what type of late fee will be applicable on you. So we will discuss that as well. And TDS section where turnover criteria apply, it means like there are certain condition where the TDS has a TDS deduction of TDS is mandatory, and it is based on your turnover, or we can say for business and businesses turnover, and for the professional like doctor, chartered accountant, or a similar kind of profession which is mentioned in Income Tax Act itself, with their profession specific receipt up to certain receipt, there if that limit is crossed, then TDS reduction is mandatory. So there are criteria, we have to understand that in which section these turnover or receipt we will check, and where that turnover and receipt we don't require to check, and what is the specialty of form G and what form H, we will discuss that as well. And complete list of TDS section, so we will go through the complete list, what type of payments where TDS deduction is required, we will see over through this. So we are trying to cover all these things in a one go, so please watch till the end, so it was the best learning in your life, and you will able to get enough knowledge of TDS in if you are completely see the this all provisions in a one go. Okay, so without any further delay, we will start this. And if any kind of query, then you can put in that chat box, and if I am not able to recall in during the session, then we will cover in we will reply at the end of the session. That is not any issue for my end. Okay, so let's start this. So what is TDS? First, we have to understand what is TDS. So first we go with the definition of TDS: tax deducted at source. It means the tax will be deducted at source point itself, where the transaction initiated. I mean to say, the generally tax liability is the person who earn income. But here what happened? From where the person earn income, which we will see. Like I am the employer, my employee earn income. I am the employer where the source will be created. So tax deducted in my end for my employee, that is tax deducted at source point. So that is the TDS deducted by the person who pay, but for behalf of the person who received that income. So for that person that person who earn income, actually the liability of tax for that only, but the person who actually where the initiation of transaction or where initiation of income will happen, will deduct that tax on behalf of that pay. So this is the basic and common for that understanding for TDS. And our liability as an employer, my liability to deduct on behalf of my employee and timely deposit that amount to government. But if and but if there are consequences if I'm not doing this, which we will discuss obviously, but here you have to understand that if there are certain things and certain payments which is compulsory and mandatory to do deduct TDS and payment to government with the time. So when someone make a payment like salary, rent, professional fee, they deduct a small percentage as tax before giving the money, and this deducted amount is then deposited with the government, and then the person only net amount they pay to that person. Like either you are paying for salary, rent, professional fee, we will discuss the common expenses where the compulsory and mandatory to payment of that at the time of TDS, sorry, at the time of payment of that transaction, then you have to deduct first TDS, and only the remaining amount you have to pay to that person. So this is very important to understand how it works, and how and we have to also understand the logic behind of the TDS on why the TDS is in the picture, and what is the reason behind of that TDS. Okay, so that TDS is deducted by the person who making the payment, which is we call either we can call deductor, payer, whatever you can say, but this is the word payer or deductor. To deduct TDS, a person or individual must complete TDS registration with the income tax department. So yeah, you have to understand that the why TDS comes in the picture, because government want transparency. Government want the person who earn income. There are chances they cannot declare that income. So in advance they can do this type of framework that the tax will be deducted in advance on behalf of that person, and they are the PAN number of the deductee, or we can say pay, or the person who received that income will be mentioned, because the income will be paying on behalf of that pay, or we can say employee, which we will take an example. So we will pay tax or TDS on behalf of employee, so we will use the PAN number of employee only. So when he will finally settle their income tax return, then that TDS will be adjusted at the time of return filing, and only remaining tax they have to be required to pay. So this is the way the whole criteria or whole things will be work. This is like a advanced tax, we can say. This is a similarity of advanced tax as well. The government collect tax on an advanced basis by using the TDS framework. Okay, so I hope you understand the TDS overview and why it is required. Now we can understand that. So for that, first the for the TDS compliances, they have to be registered for TDS register, and what is the criteria required. So for now, we will understand the step-by-step procedure guideline. For that, for TDS, you have to be mandatory of 10 number, special number, especially for deduct TDS. So how to apply that we will discuss in next part, but here we will give the step-by-step procedure guidance what we will require for TDS registration on income tax portal. So first we have to apply for 10 number, and you must apply for 10 using this form 49B, which will be available on NSDL website. You can go to the NSDL website online and you can fill that form. This is basic requirement, like your bank, you have your PAN number, you have to ready with your PAN number, your Aadhaar number, the basic detail if you are an individual. And other than that, there are no requirement of Aadhaar number. But still, if you are individual, then that is proprietor. We can say if you are proprietor, then that is required. Otherwise, not required. So you have other your business registration number, your GST registration number. These the things which is identify your business. You have to be ready with you have, and you can fill that form. The form is quite simple. The basic detail required name, address, and phone number, email ID. These all are things will be required. OTP will be on your mobile number and your registered number, and then you will get that OTPs, and then you can fill that form. So this is the basic criteria. We will understand the in a complete guidance as well. But this is apply 10. Then what is the document required? PAN number, address proof, business registration certificate, bank detail, authorized signatory detail. So these are all the document required for 10 registration. Then pen, a valid pen is required for both the payer and the payee. So when you deduct the TDS, you have a PAN number for payer, which we example take an employer or employee. So payer is the employer and the payee is the employee. So we have a PAN number for both. We will use the PAN number of both. We will pay tax on behalf of employee which is pay. So we have to be ready with the PAN number of that also. If we don't have a PAN number, then how can we pay tax on behalf of that person? How can the person can take benefit of the TDS which we already deduct on behalf of that person? So for that we have to be valid PAN number for both payer and paying. PAN is used to track tax credit and link TDS deduction. So PAN, obviously, we will use to the when if we have a valid PAN, then we can go to the different kind of statements which will be available on income tax portal. Then you can see what type of TDS will be deducted on you, and what deduction tax credit available on you. So if you have a valid PAN number, then only these things will be possible. So you have a valid PAN number, valid TAN number, and then once you have a TAN registered on the income tax portal as a T tax deductor. So if you get the TAN number, and then you can register, you can go to the income tax portal and register to himself as a tax deductor. This allow you to file TDS return, generate form 16, 16A, and track compliances. So if you are ready with all these things, then you have registered yourself, and then file for filing return. That registration is first. Even for for if you have PAN number, but for filing a return, first you have to register on income tax portal. Then only you can able to file that return. Otherwise, you are not filed to return. So similar thing, you have for a TAN number. This is a difference from a TAN PAN number. Now you have a TAN number. For TAN number, you have to register yourself as a tax deductor in income tax portal. You can go to the income tax portal. You can select which type of person you registered as a you can register what type of person you have registered as a. So there are option available as a tax deductor as well. So you can deductor registered as a tax professionals. So these are different kind of category available over there. So you can register yourself as a tax deductor, and for this will help you to file your TDS returns, generate form 16, 16 for salaried employee, and 16A for other than salary payments. So these are different kind of form. So we will go through this so you can understand in what kind of form and what kind of things will be required at the end of the session. Okay. Then you can register yourself as a traces portal. So once you take a TDS number, now you can TN number, then you can file deduct TDS, then you can file deposit that amount. Now you have to register file your TDS return. For proof for the same, which you have to be give to your person who, on behalf of tax pay, it means pay your deductee. So you have to be give some the TDS certificate. So that for that you have to register on a TDS portal, traces portal, and also you can file. So for that you have to go, also register on a traces portal, view challan status, whatever the payment you've done. So you can go over there, any problem over there, any correction requirement, any mismatch of your what TDS you deduct, or what is your is this correct, or any other person who can claim that TDS and you are not the amount is not same. So all correction will be over there on traces portal only. So these are two different portal which work in on a different kind of functions. So you have to register on the different kind of portals, traces portal and income tax portal. Next, digital signature optional but recommended. So generally for proprietorship concern, that's not required, but still you can use for you can use for your safety. But for companies, for LLP, it is mandatory to file your TDS return only on digital signatory for the person who is either who is authorized signatory. So use that person's digital signature. So this is helping to filing your return online. Okay. And the next thing, we have to see the practical guidance to apply 10, how to apply 10. So for that, you can go to the NSDL website, click online application, and then category of deductor, either your company, individual, partnership firm. Then you can fill that detail, name, address, type of deductor, contact information, review this all detail, and then submit it. Any error, then correct that error, and then resubmit it. You have to be fee. Generally, there is a fee of 65 rupees. Then payment either through credit, debit card. There are multiple option. Even nowadays, GPay option is also there. So you can pay, and then after successful submission, you can receive a 15-digit acknowledgement number, download and print that. And then you have to be required to send that acknowledgement slip to the this address. This address is given, so you can go. So you can these document you can print out, and then along with the relevant documentation, like PAN number and address proof, and all these you have attach that all the documents, and you can send these on through your through courier. You can send these on these at this address. So you can send all document and subscribe the envelope with the application for 10 acknowledgement number. So these all information you have to full and fulfill and send all these document for apply pen. And after almost 5 to 7 working days, you can get your 10 number on your registered email ID. And also you can get these things. Nowadays things will be changed. Like earlier it was more time taken, but now it will take comparatively less time. All things will be changed by the time. So this now time will be reduced by for that 10 number getting and all these things. Then there are option nowadays. We will not recommend to use offline option. Mostly application will be on online option, but there are some issues, some errors, then we can use this offline option as well. So this the similar the process for online and offline both. And once you get registered 10 number registration on traces portal. So now you once you get that, then you registered on traces portal, income tax portal, for different kind of functionality which we already discussed. So you have to do that and you will practically understand that. So how to be registered on a traces portal? Go to the traces portal, registered as a new user, choose a deductor, and then you can input your 10 number, whatever 10 number you get, you can input that captcha code. And system detect no prior filing. If any prior filing on that particular 10 number, then they can check or traces will recognize that no TDS return has been filed yet. You will be redirected to a simplified registration form that does not require token number or challan details. So if these things will be happen, they can cross check these things, and accordingly you can file a return. File registered on a TDS traces portal. Then fill basic detail, PAN of the authorized signator, pre and name, designation or organization type, address, email ID, and create your login credentials, user IDs, password, security question answer, confirm, and then activate your account. You will receive activation link via email, SMS. Use both to activate your Traces account. So these steps you have to follow to register on your Traces portal. Now you have to register on an income tax portal as a tax deductor or payer. We will already discuss what type of requirement to discuss to register on different portal, why the requirement to register on a different kind of portal, and what is the importance of that same. So we will discuss these already. So now you have to be visit on income tax portal, click on registered, and choose others. Under category there is category tax deductor and collector. Then your 10 number validate, traces check depending on your 10 station, 10 status. 10 is registered on traces, you will see pre-filled basic detail. Agar 10 is not registered on traces, you will be redirected to traces to complete re-registration part. It means you have to first registered on traces portal, and then you can register on income tax portal. If you are start from income tax portal, then you will be redirected to traces portal only. You have to fill that basic detail, and then you can register on a income tax portal as well. So these all are a basic functionality and basic steps you have to comply with to register on different portal. We will share these these material with you, so you will easily understand it and easily comply that all steps, and you are able to do yourself as well. So enter deductor detail, pen of the authorized signature, name and designation, organization type. See these mobile number, email ID, and you will receive two OTPs. So two different OTPs. You can fit that information, review all detail, and then click confirm. Then set a password, set a personalized login message, click register. A success message and transaction ID will be displayed. Your 10 registration is now complete. So this is the way you can register on a different kind of portal. I hope you understand this, and any query you can put in the chat box, or we will otherwise we will take a 5 to 7 minute in the last of your session. So whatever the queries you can put in the that chat box, so we will discuss all in one go. Okay, so next we have to see what is the what happened when a business make a payment. So how practically TDS will be deduct, we will see. So when your business pays someone like a contractor, consultant, landlord, vendor, you may need to deduct TDS before making the payment. That means you don't pay the full amount to the person, you deduct a small portion and deposit with the government. The person still get credit for that tax when they file their return. So whenever they file their return, they will get credit of that tax which already deducted by the payer. So these will be things will work in a TDS system. I hope you understand this, how TDS will be work. Okay. How this affect your business. So, generally you have to pay less. So generally as a payer, I have to pay less. I have to deduct TDS and deposit after this of time. Whatever, what is the time limit? We will discuss that as well. But I'm saying we upfront we have paid less, but there are requirement. We will must ensure that timely deposit of TDS, and it will help in a tracking expenses and taxes better. So it will be help that what time of tax expenses we do. It will be give a clear cut picture to us to track our expenses and that taxes requirement and do all the compliances. And the second thing is compliance responsibility. So we have a compliance responsibility to deduct TDS, time to deposit so in whatever month you deduct TDS, you have to be deposit in a seventh of the next month. Suppose you deduct TDS in a December, so you have to deposit in until 7th January 2026. So 7th January 2026 is the last date for December month of TDS. The only exception for a March month. For March month, the TDS you have to deposit until 30th April. For April to February, you have to sorry April to February, you have to follow 7th of the next month, and for the March there are the 30th of April. So this is the way the deposit require, and then file quarterly return, TDS return, and then issue TDS certificates to pays. Uh, and these all compliance responsibility for our side as a payer. We will discuss here. We will talk here that payer side. We have to be responsible for all these compliances. And if we are not complying with this thing, then what happened? Late deduction or deposit leads to interest and penalty. So if you are not deducted or if you are not deposited on time, then there are huge interest and penalty. So we will have to be we have to be comply with that, and otherwise we have to bear that interest and penalty. Missing TDS return can also attract to fines, and vendors may ask for TDS certificates to claim. And there are one more thing you have to understand that as per income tax section, they have to clearly said that if you are not deduct TDS or deposit TDS on time, then the expenses which you are doing, which allow disallowed expenses on that particular financial year. So if you are not deducted for the and if you are not deducted, then that expenses is disallowed up to certain limit which mentioned in the income tax act, which is 30%, 30% of that limit. But that is allowed in the next financial year. That is not issue, but we have to be understand this thing. This is the thing. If you are not comply the provision, that this consequences will happen also. So please keep in mind. Vendor may ask for TDS or TDS. So these all are the responsibility. If what if for the because of the TDS, these responsibility for our organization will be additionally bear. And what we have to understand the effect for the same as all as well, and also what is the thing which we have to be do it. So we have to be provide section certificate to claim that tax credit. We will give a form 16 to our generally whenever you file your income tax return for employee, then you can ask for form 16, which given by the employer to employee to prove that the TDS is timely deposited. And when the return will file, the certificate will show the all detail when the deposit and when the file return. All detail will be over there in that certificate. So that certificate is given by employer to employee for that salary TDS provisions for form 16. And other than salary, there are form 16A. So vendor may ask, vendor means they are like pay like employee, like someone else. So they are asked for TDS certificate to claim that tax credit. Clear communication help avoid confusion or dispute. So these are the thing which practically word the TDS implication is required. And now we have to see when will TDS reduction is mandatory. Now what do you think that actually a small businessman, they pay salary for any rupees, or they pay for any kind of expenses, they are required to file TDS. I know it's practically difficult to do all these compliances, to take additional responsibility, and I know this is not practically possible. So there are certain threshold. Only after that the TDS reduction is required. So we have to see now what type of threshold limit either is based on the payer or based on the amount. So here certain threshold based on a payment, like the up to this limit there are no requirement to TDS, and there are threshold limit related to the payer, the type of payer based on. So these things will be have understand that you make payment above the prescribed threshold limit as per Income Tax Act. The payment type fall under TDS provision, like the salary, rent, contractor payment, professional fees. So we have to understand which type of payment where TDS provision is be applicable. Now you have to see that most of the payment or most of the expenses you see in your business expenses will require to deduct TDS by either this way or that way. But even we have to be see and understand that if practically we can do this or not, or what is the threshold and what type of person is mandatory to comply with these these TDS reduction. So the recipient is in Indian and is an Indian recipient. For non-resident, different TDS provision under section, and whatever we discuss here, which is related to Indian resident only. For non-resident, there are specific sections, section 195, and I know that that is bit critical to understand in one go. So here today we are discuss based especially for Indian resident TDS only. We will take another session for non-resident specially, where we will cover entire provision which will applicable on non-resident. So it will be a clear cut understanding. So today we are majorly focused on a Indian resident only, which I'm just give you 2 or 3 point where you can see the non-resident, but majorly whatever TDS payment here we discuss for TDS for payment related to a resident only. If we pay to non-resident, then the different TDS section come in a picture. If you paying interest to non-resident, if you are paying any other royalty fee, anything which is taxable, if that is taxable in India, because that is deemed to accrue or arise in India as per Income Tax Act provision, and then that non-resident also taxable in India as per Income Tax Act provision, then these TDS these section 195 applicable. And that is, for that we have to completely understand the non-resident provision in a one go. So now we will cover only payment to Indian resident only, specifically for this webinar. Okay. So now TDS is not applicable if the limit is below threshold. The payee provide form 15G and 15H. We will already discuss. We will discuss that why the importance of the 15G and 15H, and which is actually a lower TDS. We will mention that our income is below that exemption limit. The no need to deduct TDS. So on what criteria that is, we will take advantage of this. We will understand that as well. And the not applicable for individual business and HUF if they are not covered in a tax audit. So there are so here you have to understand that earlier the limit will be different in a tax audit, but now you can go with the monetary limit. In a later part of this we can discuss only for monetary point of view. The monetary point of view is if you are an individual and HUF and your turnover is below 1 crore, and your professional receipt, if you are a professional, then your professional receipt is below 50 lakh, then you have not comply for TDS provision. This is a clear cut guideline. If you are individual and HUF, and if your income, your if your turnover and if your receipt is below these limit 1 crore and 15 lakh, then no need to comply with TDS provision. So because earlier the limit will be changed, but now the wording is a very clear 1 crore and 50 lakh. Okay. Then certain exemption payment to government, and there are certain exemption where related to payment to government entity where TDS is not reduction required. So this is the way things will be. You have to understand that. Now next point we have to see, there are specific section where TDS reduction is required, but 10 number is not required. Like you don't apply for 10 number. Now you have to understand why this type of things will be in this provision, because there are certain transaction where TDS reduction is required, but that transaction is a once in a while. If your that transaction is recurring, then recurring transaction like interest payment, salary payment. If you are a businessman, then these type of transaction is in like a monthly basis. Every month you have to pay salary, and if you are taking loan, then you have to pay interest every month. If you are commission, if you have any agent, then you have to pay commission in every month, or we can say in a frequently, not a monthly, frequently. Then TDS reduction, then 10 number is mandatory. If you are other than individual and HF, if you are individual and HF, then your limit is a cross by 1 crore or 50 lakh, as we already discussed. So, but there are specific transaction which we will see. So, especially the transaction number one, 194 IA for a buyer of property. So if you are a buyer of property, if you are purchase any immovable property which value is a more than 50 lakh, then you have to be deduct TDS on that property value and deposit it to the government. You don't require any ten number. You just there are simple process for you. You can go to the traces portal by using your PAN number. You don't need to any ten number. You can use your ten number PAN number only. I will go through with the step of practically how can you do, because generally because the either whether you are a businessman or other than business or men also, everyone can buy my house, or we can say land, whatever. Then no need to for once in a while think why you require to take a TDS 10 number why you apply for that 10 number. Especially you can use 10 number instead of you can use your PAN number instead of PAN number only. And there are clear cut guideline in the act itself, so you don't need to worry for that. You have to go to what is the step we will discuss, but I will give you just an example which will be covered in this list. I will create this material for helping you to clear cut understanding, and one by one you can go with the flow and you can get a clear cut picture of that complete TDS provision. Okay, so that's why I'm whatever the things comes in my mind, I will create specially for this session. I will create this material and it will very useful. And that's why practically in practical world this is useful. Either even if you are a student, then if you are doing work in a logical way, you understand why the things will be happen. What is the logic behind of that? Then it will be always easy to understand things, and always you can recall things in a very quick manner. That's why that is my logic to create this material purely. So this is 194 IA, which says if you are buy any property, then you don't need to require to take any 10 number. You can just you can have your PAN number and you can pay for TDS TDS payment. And if you are a tenant, I know this is the recurring. If you are living in a metro cities like Mumbai, Delhi, where our rent is like 70, 80, 1 lakh rupees monthly. So if you are living on that city, metro cities where rent is more than that, so that is for specially for them. Then don't have to comply with these things. They have not frequently filed their income tax, sorry, filed their TDS return for payment. For that, they have to follow these steps because this is a very simple process. That's why the tenant whose income is a more sorry whose monthly payment of that rent is a more than 50,000, then no need to require for a separate 10 number and registration. You have to just deduct TDS where for when you payment to your owner of your house or landlord. Generally at the end of the year in a March month, that TDS reduction will happen in particularly in 194 IB, and the rate will also reduce from 5% to 2% in last year itself. So they have to deduct TDS on last month rent and deposited by the simple step. So this will the thing also for that, especially for rent payment for more than if your rent is a more than 50,000 monthly, then that is special condition for that is special. No need to you have to be mandatory deduct TDS, but no need to apply for 10 number. Next thing is the payer of any fees. So payer for contractual payment, commission, professional fee, individual nature of not liable to tax audit. So you have to understand that these who can deduct TDS 10 TDS without 10. So if you are here, you can see the word not liable to tax audit. Tax audit, it means the monetary limit which we already discussed, that 1 crore or 50 lakh limit. So if you are doing any business and if you are below this limit, then 10 number is not required in your case. Whatever, either you are a businessman, either you are any kind of person. But majorly these will be happen only on a for businessman perspective or for professional perspective. If the limit is below that limit, then in a practically you cannot apply for a 10 number. But these transactions, for that these transaction also you have to be exception. You have exception, you can just deduct TDS, deposit it to the with the following these steps. special form for these type of section and special criteria for these type of section. There are payment or filing will be in one go. There are no two different timeline for payment or for payment and for deposit for payment and filing the return. Only one simple form where both the things will be happen. Payment will be happen and also filing will be happen. So this is the way the 194 IA, 194 IB, 194 M, and the one more section over here which I missed it, I think 194S, which is related to cryptocurrency payment. So if you are any selling of any cryptocurrency, then also TDS reduction is required. So for that also TDS reduction is required. So that I miss it, I think so. So we will discuss in later part where I can mention it. But there are 194S also in this list where 10 number is not required. You have to deduct TDS. Okay. So this is the thing where TDS will be work. And next you have to see this timing of TDS reduction. So generally, TDS deduction at the time of TDS section where deduction happen only at the time of payment. So salary in a salary income, the tax will be only the tax will be income will be accrue only at the time of payment only in salary case. Similarly, TDS will be also at the time of payment only. So there are list of section where the TDS deduction will be at the time of payment only, and other is a date of payment or date of credit, whichever is earlier. It means whenever the book entry will be done, or whenever the date of payment, whichever is earlier, it will be TDS deducted. So suppose in some time it happened practically, there are these things will be work, and theoretically we will not see any much difference, but I know that practically there are certain time when payment will be payment will be different, but the book entry will be happen in a earlier month. So but for TDS reduction, even you are not paying that person in time, then that also, if you are create an invoice for the same, you can book that expenses, or you can book that purchases, whatever the things were there, then you have to be compulsory deposit the TDS on the next of the 7th month. So this is the practically thing will be happen. So you have to be think it. Other than salary, that rent payment, contract fee payment, professional services payment, you have to be date of payment or date of credit of the payee's account, whichever credit date of payment or date of credit, or to credit to the payee's account in your books of account. When you are past the entry in your books of account, then you have to be, whichever is earlier, you have to be on the next of the month, you have to be you have to be deposit to the payment, you have to deposit for deposit to government. Okay. So this is the way the things will be work. And what is the common TDS section? You have to see now: salary, payment to contractor, payment is like you are running any business. So for running your business, you have you build your team, which you give a salary, and then either you are taken a building on a rent, or you are construct the building. So for construction, you are payment to contractor. For rent that premises, then you have to pay rent, do monthly rent, or you have to pay rent, and then either you take rent on machineries. See, these all are common expenses which we can see in every business. And then you can see professional and technical fees. You are taking any professional help for compliances for perspective, then these things will be we'll see. And you are taking any loan, unsecured loan, you can take in loan from your friends, family, relative, whatever. And then these section will come in a picture. You are appoint any agent who can sell for yourself. You can they are a sales agent, and then you can give a commission. So then the 194H will becomes in the picture. So these all are the transaction which we can see in every kind of business. So that's why I'm saying this is a common TDS section which we can see in. And this is the major transaction which we can see in our organization in any kind of business. So that's why I'm saying it separately. So you have a clear understanding that at least in a small business also you have to be comply with the at least you have to go through these common TDS section: 192, 194C, 194I, 194J, and 194A, and 194H. So, and these all are threshold limit. So you have to see in the screen, and TDS rate is this. So this is the way the whole things will be work. You have to see different kind of TDS rate for different kind of payments. So accordingly, you have to see the limits, and accordingly you have to be deduct at the comply with the rate. You can deduct TDS. So this is the way the things will be work. And now we have to see how to practically TDS payment and filing deadline along with the practical guidelines. Okay. So TDS deposit due date we already see 7th of the next month and a 30th April for a March month. And how can we do practically deposit TDS? Log in with your 10 number, go to the portal, log in using your 10 credentials. And so for filing your TDS, for filing your TDS return, you can go to your income tax portal and then use your 10 number as your log user ID. And you have your user ID and password. Then click on e-file, e-pay tax. There are e-file, e-pay tax, new payment. Choose the correct challan number. You can select challan number. This is used for this ITNS 281 used for all payments. Then the fill in payment detail. These whether you are a company deductor or non, you are a company or other than company. Then regular TDS, TDS on demand. So you are, if you are for regular TDS, then you can select that. Then you select that section. Then your PAN number on whom behalf you can deduct TDS. Then you can feed that PAN number, financial year, mobile, email, bank for debt banking. Because these all basic thing you have to fill: basic TDS amount, interest, late fee if applicable, and then what if any late fee or interest will be applicable, then feed that information as well. And then payment, select your payment, then save challan, download the challan, and then you have to feed that information: SIN number, BSR code, date of. Similarly, whenever do payment of tax on income tax portal at the time of return filing, then you can get these number. Similarly, you can go over there and fill that detail, and where you can then you will able to get that challan detail will be over there, and you can go to the traces portal and reconcile the same. So step to deposit TDS and fill form for without 10 in. So this is the way you have to save challan, and the deposit will be happen. In any query, any discrepancy found, any mail, you can get that. Then you will be reconcile the things. Now steps to deposit TDS and file form for without 10 in special cases. What we already discussed, that 194IA, 194IB, 194M. There are different form used for that payments. And there are filing is part of the form so TDS filing, and only one form is required. You can select the form based on your payment. For you, either you are payment for any purchase of any immovable property, or for payment for rent, or for 194 any M for there are also limit for 50 lakh. So if you are payment for that, then if you are taking benefit of these section, then you can select the special form. You can if you are you're using pen based form like and you are still required to, what is the steps we will see. So go to TDS 10 based deductor, do you go to e-pay tax, and then you can enter PAN number. And instead of a 10 number, you don't need to you can go to the e-pay tax, then enter PAN of buyer, mobile number, and verify with the OTP, and then select new payment. And select your form number, and then fill the all detail: buyer detail, PAN, full name, PAN number, address, email number, property address, and sale consideration, TDS amount, and date of TDS deduction. So sorry, so fill this all information and choose payment mode, and download that and generate form 16B. Go to traces portal, registered as a taxpayer. If not registered, request and download form 16. So you have to all these steps similar to whatever the things you have to do is if comply with these steps, and you can do it. And now you have to go to traces portal and registered as a taxpayer. For these type of transaction is a once in a while of transaction. Generally it's like yearly basis. You can fill that form for rented per persons. And also other than thing, also if anything happen related to this, only these are four entries, then only you can register on a traces portal as a taxpayer and request to download for TDS certificate for traces portal. So this is the way the filing will be happen on income tax portal only. You can use pen instead of 10 number. And you have to be use your login credentials of your as a PAN card holder. What is your login credential? User ID is your PAN number, and then you can select that e-pay tax, and you have to pay that. So similar things will be happen. And then TDS quarterly return, practical guidance to filing TDS return for that. Other than that, special kind of where TN number will be used, then that will be required. What is the step to use the for file for that? What we understand earlier, it is a deposit to the TDS amount, and now we have to show how to file TDS return. Generally, the quarterly return will be filed for TDS perspective. So use the return preparation utility for from 10 NSDL. Choose the correct form 24Q for salary payment, form 26Q for non-salary payment to resident, and 27Q for payment to non-resident. So whatever type of form it is required, select that form, enter the detail, deductor stain, deductee state details, challan details. The filing will be filing. We already discussed that the what is the functionality of a income tax portal and what is the functionality of traces portal. Accordingly, you can go to that portal and you can follow these steps to complete this, and then you can use these things and go to the income tax portal, log in your TAN credentials, and then you can complete these steps, and you can get acknowledgement and acknowledgement number, which is used for a future reference. If any issue found in your return, then you have to be do it, and you can get that acknowledgement number, in particular acknowledgement number. Any issue, then you can correct them. So what happen if you don't deduct or pay TDS on time? Interest and penalty 1% per month, late deduction of TDS, late deposit of TDS 1.5% per month, late filing of TDS return 200 per day, and maximum up to TDS amount. Disallowance of expenses due to TDS non compliances. TDS not deducted on payment to resident. 30% of expenses is disallowed. TDS deducted but not deposited on time. 30% disallowed, allowed in a year of payment. And like this, if you are not comply with the provision, then 30% of expenses, like you have to paying for salary, and you are not deducted not deducted TDS, then the whatever the amount is, like the amount is like 1 lakh. So 30% is 30,000 is disallowed as expenses. Like it means your income will be increased of that amount. So whenever you deduct TDS and deposit it, in which year you do that, then the payment then that that whatever the portion is disallowed in last year will be allowed on that year. But in that on that year, if you not to comply with the provision, then 30% of expenses is disallowed. It is a big number. You have to understand that if your payment for 1 lakh related to where TDS deduction is required, and if you are not deducted the same, then the 30% of your transaction, 30% of that amount is considered as a disallowed. So 1 lakh rupees, only 70,000 is allowed as expenses. So your income will be, the resultant your income will be increased by 30,000. So I hope you understand that it will be a huge impact on your profitability and huge impact on your tax. So that is why the requirement of deduction of TDS and TDS deducted but not deposited on time. These are a different section. Allowed in a year of payment, deducted but not deposited on time. TDS not deducted on a payment to resident, then 100% of expenses is allowed. And TDS deducted at lower amount, proportionate disallowance. So for especially you have to understand that for non-resident perspective, if you are not comply with TDS provision, then 100% of TDS is disallowed. 100% of payment is disallowed. It means your expenses for 1 lakh, you are not comply with TDS provision, then 1 lakh rupees will be added in your profit, added in your income. Then the tax will be increased by 1 lakh into whatever the rate of tax applicable in your case. So that is the practical thing you have to understand, that if you are not complying with the TDS provision. So I hope you understand that. When is the expenses allowed later? If TDS is deducted and paid in a subsequent year, the disallowed expenses is allowed in that year. So whatever I'm saying it is, if you are not comply with the provision in in current year, and if you are in a subsequent, you can do it, then the subsequent year you can allow for that expenses. So whatever the 30,000 is disallowed for this year will be allowed in a subsequent year. So this is the way whole things will be understood. If TDS for March is paid before the due date of filing of return, which is a 31st July for non-audit cases and for 13th September for audit cases, generally if not extended. So the due dates for TDS reduction, you have to pay a late fee interest, but still you have to be comply with this thing, then the disallowances of expenses was not over there. So this is the way you have to understand and why the TDS reduction is required and what type of consequences happen if you are not complying with these things. Okay, so I will give you one example. A company pay 12 lakh in rent but deduct TDS at a 5% instead of 10%. So required TDS 1 lakh 20,000, actual TDS 60,000, shortfall 60,000. So disallowed expenses is 12 lakh, 12 lakh, 12 lakh, 30% of 12 lakh, which is 1 lakh 80,000. So 1 lakh, your income will be increased from 1 lakh 80,000. And generally, if that person is in a 30% slab, so you have to understand that 1 lakh 80,000 into 30%, which will somewhere around 54,000. Their tax liability will be increased by 54,000 because of not compliance is the TDS provision. So I hope you understand how much is important to comply the TDS provision. Okay, so TDS section where turnover criteria is applicable. Turnover criteria is 1 lakh for business and 50 lakh for profession, especially for individual and HUF. If their turnover is below that limit, then TDS criteria is not applicable. So these are the section where you have to see the turnover criteria: 194C, 194J, H, A, I, and these all are the section we have to see that. And majorly all sections, especially where so majorly all sections this is applicable, where especially you have to see the where turnover criteria do not apply, salary provision, no need to see the turnover criteria. Only the person in a salary, I know that is not possible. I can understand. I will give you the complete understanding of one expenses, which it will take I think for 3 to 4 hour session, where I will give you each and every transaction expenses, which we can explain it. But for I'm just give you overview that salary for salary TDS, you have to deduct TDS based on a slab rate of that person, especially for salary provision. The salary provision TDS is rate of TDS is depend upon a average rate of tax for that person. What slab is applicable on that person, accordingly TDS will be deducted for especially for salary provision. So that's why there are no need to check a turnover criteria if their person income is person fall in which salary limit, which slab rate, accordingly TDS will be deducted. Similarly, which we already discussed, 194 IA, IBM, where the TDS will be happen, no need to check a turnover criteria. So this is the thing which we have to already understand. Now we have to see 50G and 50H. What is the 50G and 50H? 50G and 50H are self-declaration form that allow resident individual HUF trust to request non-deduction of TDS on certain type of income. If their income is below this is especially for individual and HUF to request non-deduction of TDS on certain type of income. If total income is the below the taxable limit, or we can say below the exemption limit, or their final tax liability for the person is a nil. So if the condition, this is especially for individual and HF only, if their liability of tax is nil and they are able to prove that, these form are applicable only to resident individual with form G for individual below 60 years and form H for senior citizen age 60 years or more. So these two form, 50G for resident individual below the year of below the 60 years, and 15H for senior citizen 60 years or more. So these two form, and which section where we can use this for 192A, especially for premature withdrawal of provident fund. So if payment is more than 50,000 here, 50,000 withdrawal is more than 50,000 in a EPF fund, then TDS section will be applicable. And then these are the list of section you can see: 193 for interest on securities, 194 dividend income. So these all are sections where you have to see the where 15G will be applicable, 15G and 15H will be applicable. So I hope you understand that 15G and 15H application, and how you So if your income is below that limit, these form do not exempt you from paying tax. If your total income exceeds the exemption limit, you must file your income tax return and pay any tax due taxes accordingly. These comprehensive list cover the major section where 15G and H can be used to seek tax exemption in income like interest, dividend, rent, insurance, commission, EPF withdrawal, and similar sources. So this is the things which we have to understand for whom the 15G and 15H is applicable and which section they can take benefit of it. So these things will be work. And now we have to see the complete list of TDS. So you can see the list is very huge. Salary, premature withdrawal for EPF, interest on security, dividends, interest on bank. Here I can create a list where you can see the which type of industry this particular section will be applicable. So like where I mentioned normal, so it will be common type of TDS payment which you can see in every organization. And where I can see the especially mention the type of company like provident fund provider, these type of TDS requirement will be. This is interest on security, especially for public limited company, banking industry. And this like interest others is a normal mutual fund company, specific company. And winning from horse is specific company. So I can create a huge list. You can see the number of entries in this list is the around 37. And there are certain other things will also, but the majorly around 37 to 40 item where TDS item, or we can say list where the TDS deduction is required. So I hope you understand that and you can go through the list. So any query you can put in a chat box. We will discuss it.
क्वेरीज वो यूट्यूब पे होगी। अभी रहने दो क्वेरीज का, बाद में अपन रिस्पॉन्ड कर देंगे।
क्या बोल रहे हैं?
क्वेरीज या तो अपन बाद में रिस्पॉन्ड कर देंगे।
हाँ फिर मतलब वही